Thank you. And I know there's people on the call going, yeah, Kathy always has a few things to say. So, and I agree with you all. So thank you for inviting me to open this. This is something that I've had several conversations with Dave and Cindy and others in our lab services and applied science division that, sort of true confessions when I started my job a long time ago. And I had grant project officer responsibilities and other responsibilities that I kind of knew I had some QA responsibilities, but I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what questions to ask about it. And even when I had questions, I didn't feel quite so supported as I see what's happening now. So first of all, congratulations to LSAST for all the hard work they've done to get the program there, but also just as evidenced by 100 and some people making the time to be on this call, it's obvious to me that folks are taking this seriously and know the importance of it. So thank you to all of you because QA affects everything we do at the agency, whether someone has a direct responsibility or not. It affects everyone's work. It affects what the agency accomplishes. As I've heard some folks say, good or bad quality assurance can make or break a health decision, an important public health decision, environmental decision. It also could either makes the agency strong or vulnerable when it comes to any of our decisions being questioned or our products being questioned. And we have good, sound QA programs and QA based decisions. Everybody is safe, right? And that's the way we want to keep it. So I think the QA cadre in the region, which I know spans multiple divisions, have a great system to support each other. So I thank you for that and encourage you to keep it going. Again, thank you to everybody who's working on this. And with that, I will hand it back over to Amy.
Thanks. Hope you enjoyed that. That was really nice words from Kathy. So presenting with me today is Elizabeth Gage and Christopher Pauly, two other members of the QA cadre. We're not the only people in QA cadre. Elizabeth will virtually introduce everybody on a slide later on in the training. So today we will go over the quality system here in Region 3. Again, we'll introduce you to the rest of the QA cadre. We'll share with you our roles and responsibilities. We'll talk about the different types of QA documents that we review and you might see. We'll go over our review and approval process so you know what to expect from us once you submit a document. We'll touch very briefly on QA assessments, provide you a current list of the QA contacts, both within the QA group and within your own divisions. And lastly, we'll provide that really helpful QA resource slide that I was talking about. We will have time at the end for questions or a discussion. So again, although we want this to be interactive and ask questions when you want to, if for some reason you want to wait till the end or something pops in your head later on, just know that we have allotted for question and answer session. So at this time, I will turn things over to Elizabeth to kick us off.
All right, so sorry about that, guys. We're going to start off by talking about what a quality system is and what our quality system is here in Region 3. And then, like Amy said, Amy, Christopher, and I are going to be running a relay for this training. So we're just going to hand the baton off when the time comes. So the first thing I want to do is read the definition of a quality system with you. It is a structured system that implements the policies and procedures for ensuring that work processes, products, or services satisfy stated expectations or specifications. And the important thing here is that a quality system is made up of procedures and people. So we're going to talk a little bit more about roles and responsibilities in a few slides. But first, I want to remind you that there are many benefits to a good quality system. And Amy told you we're going to share these slides at the end. We're not going to read every bullet on every slide. I'm not expecting you to see everything on every slide, but first and foremost, if we have a good quality system, we can make decisions with confidence. And some of the data that we collect and use needs to be able to stand up in court. So we need to provide quality assurance so that it's defensible, so that those QC checks are there and it doesn't get thrown out in court. Obviously, not every project needs data that will stand up in court. And so we're going to talk about how different projects need different levels of QA. So a strong quality system delivers verifiable and defensible data. And that's what we want here at EPA. We have a cartoon here of two guys talking about how they're going to get from here to there. And they say, oh, we'll just put in the details later. And that is not what we want you to learn here at QA Awareness. We want to talk about planning and how good planning is necessary to provide confidence and quality and defensibility for environmental decision making. So we here in EPA Region 3 have a centralized quality management plan. We've had this for a little more than 4 years now. If you were here longer ago than that, you might remember when the quality system was decentralized and each of the divisions had their own QMP, but we in Region 3 have this centralized QMP, and it provides for centralized QA oversight, formal tiered QA training and QA roles, a comprehensive tracking for QA documents, and QA vigilance internally and externally. There's a link here on the slide where you can find the quality management plan if you want to have a look at it. There are sections in it for each of the divisions. And a lot of the information that we're sharing today are documented here in our quality management plan. I did mention that the quality management plan is soon to turn 5 years old. And Christopher will remind you later that all QA documents that are turning 5 years old or 10 years old or 15 years old, they all need to be kind of resubmitted for approval. So we're currently reviewing our quality management plan so that we can update it and submit it to headquarters for its 5-year approval. So we here in Region 3 have a QA policy, and it follows from the agency's QA policy. So it states that all environmental information collected or used must be of known and documented quality, suitable for their intended use, with all aspects of collection, analysis, and use thoroughly documented, and such documentation being verifiable and defensible. So this policy, of course, first and foremost, applies to us here at EPA Region 3, right, for data that we collect or use, but it also applies to folks we have relationships with. So interagency agreements, financial assistance agreements, contractors who are funded by EPA, regulated entities, potentially responsible parties, they all have a nexus to QA and a responsibility to have verifiable and defensible data. So before we go much further, I just want to stop and define environmental information. It includes all data and information that describe environmental processes or conditions which support EPA's mission of protecting human health and the environment. So data is included, photos are included, GIS coordinates are included. We'll talk more on this next slide about categories of environmental information. We talk usually about primary environmental information, and this is what you tend to think of when you think of quality assurance and of data. It's monitoring data, sampling data that is collected for a specific purpose. So they're direct measurements of environmental conditions or releases. But there's also secondary or existing environmental information, and this is environmental information that comes from someplace else. It was collected for a different purpose. So it could be information that you got from the literature, from a database. It could be map information, GIS information, meteorological information, models, and census data. So no matter what kind of environmental information you are collecting or using, you're going to need QA documentation. And Christopher's going to walk through what those documents look like. But before we get there, Amy promised that we were going to introduce all of us. So we here in the Applied Science and Quality Assurance Group, we have special roles for quality assurance, but there are other roles that are outside of our group. And here in the QA cadre, we have folks just recently. Christopher moved to Wheeling. He's probably still in the process of moving to Wheeling. And we have Brandon, Bruce, and Anish in Fort Meade. And then Nicole, Kia, Amy, John Graves, and I are all in Philly. So no matter where you are located, you can find one of us in person if you're looking for us, or you can find us on Teams, and all of our emails are here on this slide. We do kind of specialize in what kind of document reviews we do. So Amy said she's a document reviewer, and all of us are delegated approving officials. We'll talk more about that. But we just wanted you to know who we are, and you're welcome to reach out with us at any time. We're going to have a table at the end of the presentation that talks about, like, if you're in Superfund, you might want to start reaching out to Anish. But we're going to share our specialties at the end of the presentation. And then Nicole Lick is currently our acting branch chief, and Kia is our regional quality assurance manager. I'll tell you about their special jobs in the next slides. But Nicole and Kia, did you want to say hello right now?
Hello.
Yeah, I'll jump on real quick. Hi.
Hey there, good to see you.
I wanted to say I was looking for like a funny meme or joke for QA, and what I learned in the process of doing that is that there is clearly a lot of misconceptions out there about what QA does. I found nothing that I wanted to share. So, I appreciate everyone showing up today. For me, QA boils down to really, doing our part to ensure really the accuracy and precision of data, which is critical to the credibility of the work that we all do. So appreciate you showing up for that and learning more about it.
And I'll just say, I'm glad to be here. I am the Regional Quality Assurance Manager. Nicole, you and I must have the same brain today, because I did the same thing. I looked for some funny QA jokes and I found some. And I thought about putting them in the chat, but then I thought it would be too much of a distraction. So I might do it. But,
do it. All of mine were like putting
I
QA
love
down,
Creed.
and I was
Great.
like, I'm not sharing
Thank you,
that.
Rebecca. I love Creed from The Office. But good to be here, and I'll answer questions in the chat.
Excellent. So this is one of the slides that we have to update every time we do this training. So here it's a snapshot in time. There are details. There are, Chris moves to Wheeling on us, and we have to update our slide. But you can always find this information on our intranet site, and we're going to share that link at the end of the presentation. So this is one of those slides that I know you can't read all the details here, but it's just a schematic of our quality system here in Region 3. So you can see the Office of the Regional Administrator up top. That's a signature that goes on our quality management plan. And then all of the divisions, all of the division directors sign off on our quality management plan, and they have roles for quality assurance. So then there are some special roles here in the science division and in the applied science and quality assurance branch. And that's all of us on the QA cadre, the regional quality assurance manager, who is Kia. And then we have delegated approving officials in the science division and in a couple other divisions. And then John Graves is our information quality guidelines officer. We also have QACs, that quality assurance coordinators, who are in all of the divisions, and they are a part of the Regional Quality Council. We're going to talk more about them at the end of the presentation. But quality, it permeates throughout the region. Everyone has a job, and we're going to talk more about some of those jobs. All right, so all of our regional managers and supervisors have a role for QA. They need to ensure that QA is implemented, they provide resources, and they assign both those quality assurance coordinators from the divisions and delegated approving officials if applicable. Nicole, who's our acting branch chief, oversees the quality staff, and she secures resources for us. And then Kia, our QA manager, provides primary oversight of the quality system. and she is our principal QA advisor to senior management. She leads the Regional Quality Council. She is our main reviewer and approver of quality management plans. She's our representative at national meetings and our representative when she talks to headquarters. And she gives all of us delegated approving officials our authority. And I see someone wants us to share the PowerPoint. We're going to share it at the end, so you're going to get it at the end. All right. So I mentioned these quality assurance coordinators, and they coordinate review of their organization's QA procedures and documents at least annually. They update their divisions and assist staff as needed. They participate on the RQC, and they communicate quality info to the regional quality assurance manager. You might be a designated project manager, and that might be why you're at the training today. These designated project managers have varying titles, so we're not going to say that all project officers are DPMs or all RPMs are DPMs, but if you have environmental information operations responsibilities, you are a designated project manager, and you're responsible for submitting QA documents for review, copying your QACs when you submit those documents, and you might do project assessments. So we, Amy, Christopher, and I, and the rest of the QA cadre, we are delegated approving officials, and we review and approve QA documentation. Kia does all the QMPs, but we do the QAPs and field sampling plans. And we need approvers from our supervisors and division senior management, and we need that approval from the RQAM. We can't approve any documents that we author or prepare, and QAOs have DAO certification, but also manage their group's QA documentation training. So before we stop talking about roles and responsibilities, we just want to put one final reminder. We are here for help, advice, guidance, and support. We put on this training today, which is intended for everyone in Region 3, but we do specific trainings and workshops for folks who need them. Primarily, we spend a lot of time doing QA document review and approval. We keep track of all the documents in the region. We do assessments or audits. We provide program support, collaboration, planning, and guidance. And we develop tools and resources. There are some templates out there that we've created, and we work with our headquarters colleagues on directives, policies, and initiatives. So with that, I'm going to hand the relay baton over to Christopher, and he's going to talk about the meat and potatoes of this presentation, document review and approval. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. Like she said, my name's Christopher Pauly. I'll talk about some of the documents in the EPA quality system. I'll finish up by talking about the review process for certain QA documents, the forms that are used, review timelines, and the maintenance of QA documents. So this slide shows the QA document hierarchy. QMPs are at the top and set the framework for an organization's quality system. We have one in Region 3. Next on the hierarchy are quality assurance project plans, or QAPs. They describe in detail the technical activities or projects that are being conducted. An organization can have multiple of these. There's also a variant of that called a quality assurance program plan, or QAPR. In this instance, QA requirements would remain the same between projects, but perhaps the geographic locations would be changing, so it's easier to write one set of quality assurance specs for all these different locations. And then finally, at the bottom of our hierarchy, we have standard operating procedures, or SOPs. So these are labor-saving documents in the sense that they're routine, reoccurring elements of a project that only need to be written once. They can be incorporated many times into different projects as needed. So typically, we'll have a QMP plus a QAP, or a QMP plus a QAPR with an FSP. And an FSP is a field sampling plan, and it contains details that differ from site to site. This combination must meet the project objectives as approved by the quality manager. These documents must be EPA approved prior to the beginning of any environmental information operations. And in addition, some contracts or financial agreements have competency requirements. The EPA quality website has more information on these, often in the Code of Federal Regulations. And we realized that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to these documents. The amount of detail required in a document is dependent on the importance of the project, its impact, and what the outcome might be in the case of an error. This is called the graded approach by EPA. It results in these documents differing in length and the amount of details. And EPA just released, well, last year, January of last year, we released an updated QMP standard. This new standard defines expectations for extramural partners and should be referenced when drafting a QMP. There are 18 elements. During EPA review, an agency quality official will review the QMP for the presence and acceptability of the criteria that are listed. If an element's not applicable to your agency's quality system, language detailing why that element's not applicable should be included. And we obviously don't expect you to remember all of these now. We have a link on our intranet site and the internet where you can go and read about them. In addition, there'll be a live link to the QMP standard at the end of this presentation. So what is a QAP? The QAP integrates all technical and quality aspects of a project, including planning, implementation, and assessment. So the purpose of the QAP is to document planning results for environmental data operations and to provide a project-specific blueprint for obtaining the type and quality of environmental data needed for a specific decision or use. It's developed using a systematic planning process. No work covered by this requirement shall be implemented without an approved QAP available prior to the start of work, except under circumstances that require immediate action to protect human health and the environment. So the QAP is developed in the planning stage of a project, and the level of detail that it provides is guided by the graded approach. So this document's approved by the quality assurance manager or a person with delegated authority. It's vital to remember that environmental information operations may not take place until the QAP has been approved. It's also important to remember that the QAP is a living document, can be changed as needed. The QAP does need to reflect, however, what is contained in the QMP, and it needs to be reviewed by the organization on an annual basis and renewed every 5 years through the EPA approval process. So QAPs, they can be grouped into 4 basic categories of elements within them. These groups are Group A, which is project management and information data quality objectives. Group B, which is implementing environmental information operations. Group C, which is assessment and oversight. And Group D, which is environmental information review and usability determination. So in Group A, the QAP is describing essentially who is responsible for what is happening in this project. In Group B, we're looking for what environmental information will be collected, essentially when, where, and how will that data be collected. And meanwhile, in Group C, the QAP should be telling us how the data was collected. In other words, did you collect the data the way you said you would? And finally, in Group D, we're looking for how data will be determined to be sufficient enough to answer the questions being asked in the project. EPA released an updated QAP standard in July of last year. This table lists all of the required elements of the QAP. QAPs must include a detailed discussion of all of those elements that are listed there. During agency review, an EPA quality official will review the document for the presence and acceptability of the criteria above. As with the QMP standard, there are links on the intranet and internet where you can read about these elements. And there will be a live link to the QAP standard at the end of this presentation. So let's quickly go through the process following your writing of a QA document. So the document needs to be reviewed within the organization performing the work. And it's essential that the organization's internal approval process is followed as was described in the QMP. The QA document should be submitted to the EPA point of contact. Finally, the EPA POC will submit the document to our EPA cadre for review, and we'll go over the review process here next. So there's a time frame with our QA document review that needs to be considered when you plan your projects. It's extremely important to plan your project, especially your plans surrounding sampling events, around this process towards document approval. So once the document's submitted to us for review, we have 45 days to complete that review. At that point, EPA comments are sent to the submitter of the document. If revisions were necessary, we have 15 days upon receipt of the revised document to either approve the document or submit additional comments. And so this slide details the submission and review process for QA documents. The project officer receives the QA document. They'll perform a completeness check using a pre-submittal checklist that I'll show in a few slides. And the PO will submit the review package to the Region 3 QA email address. And it's important to remember not to submit the document to an individual QA member. And this includes revised documents. That way it won't get lost in our email inboxes potentially. And this is the QA review request form, or QARF. So this is used for submitting QA review requests to AskWab, and it's available on the intranet. And this is the R3 QA pre-submittal checklist. So this document's designed to help submitters check the QA document for completeness prior to submitting to EPA. The questions listed represent common omissions which render a document incomplete towards meeting EPA QA requirements, and it's available on the intranet and the internet. So once the review is complete, we respond in one of three different ways. The first is approval, in which case environmental information operations, or EIO, may occur as planned. Second is conditional approval, in which case EIO may begin while minor deficiencies are being resolved. Typically, resubmittal is required, and typically that needs to occur within 30 days. And finally, the third way we respond is resubmission required. While resubmission is required, no environmental information operations may take place. So what do you do with the approved QA document? Well, it needs to be distributed to project personnel, as was outlined in the QMP and the QAP. It needs to be accessible during project activities, including during field work. The original should be retained as an official record, and it's important to remember to document data collection and project activities. And finally, on this slide, we'll go over QA document lifespans. QMPs, QAPs, and QAPers are valid for up to 5 years. SAPs and FSPs are valid for the duration of the project, and SOPs should be reviewed annually. However, it's important to remember that all of these documents need to be reviewed annually. So now I'll hand it off to Amy, who will be talking about quality assessments.
Thanks, Christopher. I just wanted to do one more plug that if you're not with EPA or you're not logged in this from EPA Teams, if you could just let us know who you are so you get credit for today. I see somebody's calling in, so if you're not just using it as audio and your name's not already in here, just make sure you let us know who you are so you get credit for the training today. Okay, great, awesome. Thanks, Christopher. All right, this is the home stretch. Thanks for everybody for still sticking with us today. I'm going to talk about assessments. Assessments are the check step in the Plan, Do, Check, Act EPA quality model. This is where the planned activities from the do step are checked, and the question is asked, did things go as planned? And if not, why not? This is when the results are evaluated in terms of performance and where the environmental information is analyzed to determine if the project was successful. If it wasn't, how will it be corrected and then reincorporated back into the plan step? There are a few different types of assessments that you may come across. There are management assessments, and they look at an organization's quality program and make sure that they have a quality system and that they are following what's required within their quality system documents. There are technical assessments, which some of you may have been or are routinely a part of. This is where you're looking to ensure the implemented operations and results comply with the documented activity and are suitable for the suitable to achieve the data quality goals. These are things like a readiness review or technical systems audits and peer reviews. During data assessments, you're going to be looking at the data to make sure that the criteria specified in the QA document has been met. This type of assessment will ask the question, is the data of good quality and usable for its intended use? These assessments are data validation and verification and data quality assessments. The associated QA document should discuss all relevant assessments for the quality system and or for the project. We also get assessed every 3 years by headquarters. With all of the new grants that have been going out, OIG is currently and will most likely continue to really look at all of these new grant programs. They're going to assess them and make sure that all the required QA documents for environmental information operations are being submitted to EPA. There will be oversight, and assessments are critical to ensure that the projects under these grants are implemented properly and progress accordingly, and if not, are corrected as soon as possible. At the end of each fiscal year, which we're coming up to, we, as in we in QA, will put together an internal quality system assessment report, and this is referred to as the QARP, or the Quality Assurance Annual Review and Work Plan. So although it does come from QA and we're the ones that submit it to headquarters, it's really in collaboration with all of the divisions within our region. So we're required to, again, send this to headquarters at the beginning of fiscal year, so in the beginning of October, from the previous fiscal year, and we document all the assessments that happen, any trainings that happen, that are given and received, the QA documents that were reviewed, and what we hope to accomplish in the coming year. So after we send it to headquarters, they will compile all of the region's QARPs, and then they send out a national report. We can look at that national report and see if there are any sorts of trends or identify issues that we need to work on. Just a reminder that if you are a quality assurance coordinator, or you know your quality assurance coordinator, which you all should, just kind of give them a little bump and let them know that the deadline to fill out the QARP is this Friday. And if they have any questions, they can reach out to Key Along on how to fill that out. So like I said, we developed the QARP in collaboration with all of the divisions. And mainly it's 1 or 2 representatives from your division, and they're known as the Quality Assurance Coordinator, or the QAC. Monthly, the QA cadre meets with the divisional representatives, and together we are the Regional Quality Council, or the RQC. During our meetings, we discuss QA-related topics and disseminate important QA, updates and any changes. Here is where your representative can bring up any concerns your division is having, or bring up any other QA-related issues. So if you're having any issues, or you're seeing any trends with your QA documents, or people are constantly asking you the same kind of QA question, be sure to relay that information to your quality assurance coordinator, and they can bring it up to us. If you are sending us emails, it's a good practice to also include your quality assurance coordinator on those emails, so they're always in the loop and know what's going on. When we send you emails, we will always include your quality assurance coordinator as well. So like Nicole and Kia both said, that we don't really have any fun memes for quality assurance, and we don't have a good role model for quality assurance in Creed, but we do have the Quokka. So before I continue, I just want to share some fun facts about this little guy on your screen. This is a Quokka, and we have adopted him as the QA mascot. This cute little guy is dubbed as the, quote, happiest animal on earth due to their perma-smile. They're native to Western Australia. They are part of the kangaroo and wallaby family. They're the size of a small cat, not usually weighing more than 11 pounds, and they hop around just like a bunny. So that's our little mascot. I bet Creed didn't have anything cool on his desk for QA. Okay, so if you are unsure who your quality assurance coordinator is in your region, here is I think this is the most updated list. We are going to be updating this again shortly, but this should be the most updated list of your points of contact. So the QAC is the individual within your division. And the QA point of contact is the individual that's part of the QA group that you can contact if you have any questions. Like Elizabeth said, you're really welcome to reach out to any of us if you have any questions, but we encourage you to really try to reach out to the point of contact for within QA. And again, please make sure that you email the R3QA email box. Someone is scheduled to always monitor that email. Like Christopher said, it really kind of helps with documents getting lost in our email, or people are going on detail. They might not be able to reply to your email. So it's always just a good idea to send it to our R3QA. This list is updated as needed on the R3 intranet website. So if you want to see who the most current one is and a couple weeks go by and you're looking at this training, I recommend you just going right to the R3 intranet page to see if we have updated your point of contact within QA. Like I mentioned in the opening segment, here's the list of some helpful QA resources. These links, again, are all live. These are all our most up-to-date standards for both the quality assurance project plans and the quality management plans. We have the link to G4. We have the guidance document for QAPs. This will be updated shortly because it refers to our old requirements for QAPs, but it's still a relevant link to use. And then both the intranet and the intranet R3 QA website.